This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our January Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm Mike Frieda, North Haven's first selectman, joined by our second selectman, Mr. William Piper, and our third selectman, Mr. David Cohen. David and Bill, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'd like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 2, are there any public comments to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item number 3, the approval of the minutes of the December Board of Selectmen meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
And that was December 4th, our Board of Selectmen meeting. We have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 4, I have one announcement to make, and unfortunately it's a sad announcement. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago on the North Haven Green, we had a menorah lighting on the green. And of course, this was followed or preceded by our Christmas tree lighting on the green. And unfortunately, yesterday we found out, the police reported to me, that the menorah was destroyed on the green. And I wasn't too happy about it. Our police acted very quickly. My offices now for the next two and a half months are in the police department building. So I see the chief, the deputy chief. I work very well with all the police officers there. And there was a quick arrest of a juvenile. By state statute, you cannot, as a police department, divulge the name of the juvenile. But we arrested that individual. And we are now going to rebuild this disgrace that happened. So I wanted to tell everybody that this sad symbolic example of hate and discrimination is not going to be tolerated here in North Haven. North Haven is not going to tolerate any level of discrimination, any level of prejudice, and any level of anti-Semitism here in North Haven, Connecticut. We as elected officials are elected to serve all the people. We don't pick and choose whom we serve. So this really infuriated me when I heard this. It's not going to be tolerated. We're taking a very demonstrative approach on this. And if it happens again, there'll be another arrest. So I want to put everyone at ease that there was an arrest. I want to put any recalcitrants coming forward in the future that are going to perpetuate hate, or non-inclusivity, or insensitivity to race, or whatever. We're going to stop it. And we're going to be very firm on this. We're not going to tolerate it. So to the members of the North Haven Jewish community, and for those who came to the menorah every year at our lighting from other cities and towns, we want you to know that we've got your back and we're not going to tolerate it. It's not going to happen again. If it does, we are going to address it. So I wanted to address that. David and Bill, would you like to say anything?
Bill, please.
And I think to kind of go along with the comments you've already made, I think North Haven is a community, and as it should be, it's a welcoming community for all religions and all belief systems, including people who may not even believe in God. I mean, because there are some people who don't. But I think, whatever your religion is or your belief is in terms of religions or no religions, we're all a community. We're all here together. And we have to respect each other's beliefs. And this was unfortunately this was a young person who for whatever reason, disrespected a certain set of beliefs, but that's not North Haven. North Haven is a community, and you know, I have friends of all different religions, and it was a horrible instance on the green that isn't indicative of North Haven.
So before I turn it over to David, last month, David was with me along with Bill Piper on the menorah lighting on the green. And we had, in the snow, believe it or not, maybe 150 people there. It was a wonderfully poignant event. So I know some people just walked in. I've just addressed, ladies and gentlemen, this menorah disgrace on the green, that it was defaced, it was torn off, and it was unfortunately happened, but there was an arrest made right away. And that's what we will continue to do. We're not going to tolerate it. David?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for those words, both of you guys. I appreciate it. And I guess I feel this on two levels. You just shared this with me, and as a member of North Haven's Jewish community, I, of course, I'm very sad to hear this. This is very sad for me as a member of the community, but it's equally sad just to be a member of North Haven, the community writ large here. You know, we all share in this great community that we call home. And it honestly wouldn't have made a difference if the menorah was desecrated, or if the tree was desecrated, or some other symbol of someone else's religion or belief system was desecrated. It's a very sad moment for our town, but coming together as a community, as you said, our police department took very, very quick action. Apprehended the young gentleman, and you know, I hope that this young person can find a way to grow through this experience. I mean, I think that they are still also a part of our community, this young person, and if there's ever an opportunity for me as a member of the Jewish community to meet with this young person, I'd be happy to do that, and hopefully find a time to connect with them and show them kind of what this means to our community, not just as a Jewish person in the community, but also as a member of this town of North Haven, which is such a welcome, wonderful, warm community for all of us here. So I think this is an opportunity for growth for this young individual, and also for our town. That, as you said, Michael, and you so eloquently put, when things happen, they happen to all of us, and we all experience the shame and the sadness together, and the disappointment together, and we move forward together. And so I really appreciate both of what you guys have said, and we will grow from this, and we'll be better from this.
And we will be replacing that menorah, and we'll be rebuilding that to get back to where we were, to continue to celebrate that on the North Haven Green. So thank you. So let's move to item number, let's see here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to item number 5. Now, David, you have something on the agenda. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. So, folks, if you'll bear with me, I want to. This is kind of a multi-layered piece of the agenda. This is probably the longest piece of our agenda, and I just want to go through it kind of piece by piece here. So, just to set the table, last December 4th, the meeting agenda that we just approved, the meeting minutes we just approved, we authorized Michael to enter into a lease and purchase agreement for a ladder truck. Not to rehash all of what happened at our last meeting, but basically we have a ladder truck in town that is out of commission. We signed a purchase order a couple years ago that we had to come together and figure out how to solve, and we solved it by authorizing Michael to enter into a lease and purchase agreement at our Board of Selectmen meeting last month. Both Bill and I authorized Michael to do that. The three of us all three of us were in agreement on that, and the Board of Finance participated, of course, by authorizing a slug of money from our contingency fund to fund the first piece of that ladder truck payment. And that was part of the Board of Finance. The part that we participated in our minutes here, were just simply authorizing Michael to enter into the lease agreement. And that was it. And then we finished the meeting and we moved on. This past week, earlier this week on Monday, before we had another meeting to discuss our budget, our upcoming 2026, this budget cycle upcoming, A resident in town approached Michael and made the allegation that, number one, I should not have participated in that vote last December 4th. And number two, that I should not be participating in any conversations or discussion related to our budget process here in town. And the rationale that the resident came forward with was because of my association with the fire department, that I would have a bias, that I have a conflict of interest due to that affiliation with the fire department. And this individual told Michael this, and Michael shared this with the rest of us before the meeting we had on Monday morning. And just to put a finer point on this, the idea that this individual came forward with was very simply that because of my affiliation as a volunteer firefighter, as many of you know, I'm a volunteer firefighter in town, and now I sit on the Board of Selectmen, and that these two things together make me conflicted. Essentially, that if anything were to come before me that has to do with the fire department, that I would be biased or unable to have an objective, impartial opinion about what would come before me because of my association with the fire department as a volunteer. So this individual came forward and said, hey, I believe this is a conflict of interest. And David, as with this association with the fire department, should not be voting on this truck that he voted on last December, and should not participate in any further discussions related to the budget writ large, meaning not just related to fire-related matters, but any and all matters related to the budget. Again, because of this perceived conflict of interest. So when someone comes forward in our town and makes an allegation such as this, me personally and we as a board, we take it incredibly seriously. This job to us, one of the most vital parts of this job is to be impartial, to be unbiased, to be objective, and to be transparent. And so we don't come up here with secret agendas. And the fact that someone were to come forward and make an implication, making a suggestion, and that we would have secret agendas, that I would have a secret agenda, or that I would have some kind of conflict of interest because of my affiliation as a volunteer firefighter, voting on matters related to the budget that either have to do with fire or not. This is something that I take incredibly seriously. I did not run in this campaign. I did not join this board because I wanted to push forward a fire-related agenda. That said, we take all of these types of allegations incredibly seriously, right? Any suggestion, any mere perception of impropriety is a very serious allegation for this board and for this town. And you as the town residents deserve a full and complete, full consideration of that allegation. So what did we do? We did a couple of things. The first thing we did is we talked about it, and we said, hey, how do we feel about this? Did it ever occur to us that something like this would come about? Is there a conflict here? Is this something we should dive into in diligence? And the answer is yes. Let's take a look at this. Let's make sure that we understand what this individual was saying, and let's make sure that we look directly at our code of ethics and we understand what our code of ethics says about this, and whether or not there is, in fact, a conflict of interest with my affiliation with the fire department. So we look to our code of ethics, which I have a copy of here. Some good nighttime reading, if you're ever interested. Code of Ethics is available to everybody in this town. There are sections specifically on conflicts of interest, what a conflict of interest is, and what that means, and whether or not an individual serving in a board or some other capacity in town would in fact have a conflict of interest in such a matter as this. And furthermore, what we did is we took the additional step, because we came to the conclusion that no, there was no conflict of interest, but we wanted to take the additional step of going and seeking the input and the opinion of our town attorney, which is what we did. So we went to our town attorney, who represents a number of towns in Connecticut on matters such as this, and we asked our town attorney the following questions. And if you'll allow me to read to you the opinion that our town attorney issued, I think it's very instructive for folks to hear what our town attorney said. So we asked two questions, the two questions that were raised by this individual. Number one, given my affiliation and association with the fire department, and the fact that I'm sitting on this Board of Selectmen. Is it a conflict of interest for me to participate in Board of Selectmen annual budget discussions, deliberations, and voting? And now I'm reading directly from the questions that we asked. And number two, the specific discrete item that we discussed at the December 4th meeting, was it appropriate for me to participate in that discussion and vote to authorize Michael to enter into a lease and purchase arrangement for the ladder truck? Those were the two questions we asked Town Attorney. Can you take a look at that? Can you take a look at our Code of Ethics? And can you give us an opinion on what you believe is the right answer here? What's the right outcome? Was there in fact a conflict of interest? And if there was in fact a conflict of interest, what this individual suggested I would need to do would be to recuse myself from the December 4th vote that we had last month, as well as recuse myself from any future deliberation, consideration, or discussion of the upcoming budget, which of course would be a major recusal, because that is one of my primary roles, to participate in those types of discussions. So let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to just read the opinion that our attorney gave to us, because I think it's important that you all hear this. So those are the two questions we asked. Number one, the first thing the attorney did was go through the Board of Selectmen annual budget roll. I'm going to paraphrase some of this stuff, but this is available to you if you'd like. The Board of Selectmen has a very limited role when it comes to the larger budget that comes through every year, right? The cycle of the budget. Our role, first and foremost, is every town department gives us a proposed budget and their requests, and that happens 90 days before the town meeting. And then we take that request, essentially their proposal for their budget, and we get one opportunity to make amendments, revisions, declinations, suggestions, and then we take those suggestions, that revised budget, and we put it in front of the Board of Finance. And there are certain time periods that this all happens. But that's the one opportunity that we have to make essentially suggestions, revisions, amendments to a proposed budget given to us from the various town departments. This is all according to our charter. In this particular year, the proposed budgets that were given to us by all of the various departments, we are not making any changes to. We are giving that entire proposed budget on the Board of, remember the Board of Ed has their own separate budget. So our side, the town side, we're giving that entire proposed budget that each department gave to us without any changes, amendments, or revisions directly to the Board of Finance. And then the Board of Finance, their role is much more impactful, much more substantive than our role would be going forward in the Board of Selectmen when it comes to the budget cycle. So that's just some information to be very aware of as we go through this opinion. Then we look to the code, right? The two most important provisions of the code that we want to be looking at here are, one, what's defined as a conflict of interest, and number two, what is an interest? What kind of interest would I need to have that would create a conflict such that I would not be able to deliberate or discuss the budget without that conflict impairing my vision or coming in between me and making what I believe to be the best decision for the people of this town, as opposed to just myself or my family or someone else that I'm connected to. So let me specifically read what a conflict of interest is, according to our Code of Ethics. Specifically, conflicts of interest. An official or employee shall not use his or her office or position, or take any action or attempt to influence others to take any action in a manner which he or she has reason to believe or expect may result in a personal or financial benefit or a personal or financial detriment that is not shared with a substantial segment of the town's population for or on behalf of himself or any other person that he or she is directly or indirectly related to. So the basic, if you take away a lot of those words, what it essentially means is a conflict of interest where I would get some kind of financial or other improper benefit that only I or a member of my family would share in, or my business would share in, and would not be shared by the other people in this town. And this is what the attorney then said. As previously indicated, I have been informed that the new Board of Selectmen member, David Cohen, is a volunteer firefighter. The question of whether Mr. Cohen or anyone else has a conflict of interest that triggers a recusal obligation under the code is answered by reviewing the definitions of the code, analyzing the conflict of interest section of the code, and considering the disclosure of interest and recusal provisions. So a relationship, the definition of an interest in the code is, because this is an important part of, if you have a conflict of interest, what does an interest mean? A relationship to a contract, transaction, or decision that such a direct or indirect financial or other material benefit has been, will be, or might be received as a result of that contract, transaction, or decision. So essentially, do I have an interest, either financial or otherwise, that I would derive from making a decision that would be different or substantially different to benefit myself about either giving Michael the authority to enter into a lease and purchase agreement for the truck, or participating in overall budget discussions for the town? Is my conflict so great that I wouldn't be able to offer impartial, unbiased opinions? The attorney came back and said the following: based on the facts known to me, there is no direct or indirect financial benefit that Mr. Cohen would receive as a result of participation in the Board of Selectmen budget discussions. So that's the first question, right? Can I discuss the budget in general? Yes. Our town attorney is saying clearly yes. On its face, there is no benefit, be it financial or otherwise, that I would be receiving merely by participating in and having discussions about our town budget. Second question, how about the fire truck that we authorized last week for Michael to enter into a lease and purchase agreement? This is the attorney's opinion. On December 4th, the board unanimously, our board approved a resolution authorizing Michael to enter into a lease purchase finance agreement. And Mr. Cohen participated in the discussion and the vote. Mr. Cohen did not have a conflict of interest as defined by the code because, based on the facts known to me, he does not have a relationship to the contract, transaction, or decision that results in a direct or indirect financial or other material benefit to him. Certainly, the town as a whole benefits from the lease purchase of a new fire apparatus, and Mr. Cohen, as a town resident, shares this common benefit with his fellow residents. As such, there is no conflict, because my benefit would have to be greater than the rest of town and the other residents in town. So for me, and I think for the rest of the board, and forgive me for reading the legal opinion of a lawyer, I know that sometimes that's not the most enjoyable thing to hear, but I think it's instructive for all of us. It was clear to us on its face. The plain language of the code for us was very clear. There was no financial or other benefit for me participating in either budget discussions or authorizing Michael to enter into a lease purchase agreement. I'm not receiving any benefit greater than any other person in this town. In fact, I'm very happy with the benefit that we all receive, which is a great piece of new equipment that we can save life and property in this town. And the mere fact that I may be on that piece of equipment certainly is not a greater benefit to me than it is to the rest of town. It's simply my way of putting on another hat and being a public servant to this town, which I'm proud to do. And so with that, I think we can close this issue. Let me just wrap it up with a bow on it a little bit, if you don't mind. So the question was, is there a conflict of interest for me to participate in these kinds of discussions? Number one, about the budget. Number two, about the truck. The answer is no. There is no conflict of interest. My job up here is to render my opinion and decisions and authorize Michael to take certain actions, and I do that impartially, I do that objectively, I do that unbiased, and I do that transparently. And any suggestion that I would be not doing that in a way to benefit you and put myself in front of you, I take very seriously. So forgive me for spending all this time going through all of this. I think it's important that the folks out there know that if you think something is improper, you come forward, you tell us, we take it seriously. And I think that we have taken this issue very seriously. And with that, there is no need to redo this vote from last month. There is no need for me to recuse myself from any matter related to last month's vote or from any budget discussion going forward.
Well, thank you very much, David. Very articulately stated. Bill, anything?
I think, if you think about it, it makes sense that that the standard from an ethics standpoint is that you are not, or your family members are not receiving a benefit that's out of line with whatever anybody else in the town receives.
Yeah.
And ultimately, for the truck and all the other items in the budget, we don't, as we all know here, and everybody in the audience knows here, that we don't decide as the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance doesn't decide. It goes to a referendum and the voters decide. And, and you could all of a sudden start thinking about other things. Well, do you have children in the school system?
Yeah.
You say you shouldn't be involved in anything on board about education?
My son actually said that to me.
I know.
Yeah,
So
he
you
said,
think
"Dad,
about
you
it.
have kids in the school. Does that mean you can't vote on the budget because you have kids in the school?" And I
That
said,
makes no sense.
I said that makes no sense. And there's lots of
Well,
things.
and
Yeah, please go
I've
ahead.
got a
Bill.
problem too. My wife has a library card.
Oh, I mean,
And I can't do anything on the library budget, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I think
and
what-
people pick up
Yeah.
trash at my house. I mean, I can't vote on Public Works.
Yes, we're
See,
we're
so
members of this community, and we all wear lots of hats, and we
Right.
all engage in the community in various ways. And as public servants, we engage in it in multiple different ways, and it doesn't conflict us. It just makes us far more, I think, aware, and our perspective grows, and I think we get the opportunity to see different aspects of the town, and that only informs our ability to make good decisions about our budget. It doesn't detract from it. And that's the ultimate outcome for me, is my participation and affiliation with the fire department simply informs my decision-making and makes me a better decision-maker. It doesn't make me a biased one.
See, and on the other hand, though, I think clearly we support people asking questions like this, because
Absolutely.
it's better to ask and I think come back with the response and the detailed discussion that you've had and that I've heard separately. But so please, ask, because it doesn't hurt to ask either. So I think you have every right to ask. And it wasn't necessarily a bad question.
No, not at
I
all.
think it just further clarified that, and you start thinking about, just like your son said, I started thinking about we've all been involved and had children in the school system, and that nobody would think that would be something that we'd want to, as members on the Board of Selectmen or having been on the Board of Finance, we should have to recuse ourselves from
Yeah, absolutely.
being involved in those types of matters.
Yeah.
Because we're, just as you said, because we're not receiving a benefit that's disproportionate with the benefit everybody else in town receives. I'm sorry, Mike.
Well, I am very satisfied with this explanation, David and Bill. I think we're going to move forward in a very positive fashion. Thank you for all the research you did, David. Thanks for your comments. We're going to move forward in a very positive
Thanks for the
fashion
question,
right now.
too.
So,
I have
Yeah.
a point of clarification, if I could ask 2 questions.
Thanks for the question.
well,
Thank you.
Michael, is it okay?
well,
So,
we
thank you
normally
for
like
that
to do, we normally like to do this in public comment.
Well, since you're raising this point now, I think it's important to get a point of clarification.
What's the point of clarification?
What is the point of?
Well, yeah, so,
Oh, sure, of course. My name is Nancy Barrett, and I live at 1 Crestview Drive, and a point of clarification is part of Robert's Rules of Order. So it's a question regarding the points that Mr. Cohen has made. Thank you. So my first question is, thank you for that detailed response,
Sure.
as well as your description of the town attorney. I assume this is Jeff D'Onofrio's response. My first question is, was that Mr. D'Onofrio's initial impression and his initial interpretation of the circumstances was what you read this evening, or was it different?
comment.
Michael, would you like to go?
No, the attorney's first impression was that it was not allowed. But there was a second part to the story that David talked to the attorney about. We gave David, like we would anybody on this board, the opportunity to talk to the attorney.
Right.
Because his credibility potentially was at stake. We
Absolutely.
don't want that. We're not gonna
Absolutely.
take it, we're not gonna accept it. So we allowed David, we allowed him to talk to the attorney.
I have no objection to that. I
David,
think it's an important
Let me
piece of the
finish,
story.
let me finish.
Yes.
Let me finish. So David talked to the attorney at length. And David came up with this research. And after the conversation between David and Jeff D'Onofrio, Jeff came away with a different perspective,
Okay.
which is the perspective that Mr. Cohen talked about tonight.
Okay. So he changed his opinion. The town attorney changed his initial opinion and is now presenting this opinion, correct?
Do you mind if I comment on that?
Sure.
Yeah, I would not characterize it like that at all. Exactly what Michael said is entirely true, that the initial opinion, what I'm taking issue with is the word change, that the initial opinion was that in an abundance of caution, just to put some detail to this, Jeff's opinion, his initial opinion before we spoke was, look, in an abundance of caution, having David recuse himself from the December 4th, and we're just talking about the ladder truck, having David recuse himself from the December 4th vote, in an abundance of caution, will remove any appearance of impropriety with respect to the decision that was made authorizing Michael to enter into the lease agreement. And because the outcome would not be in question, because Michael and Bill would obviously vote the same way they did, it would be passed, and so it wouldn't change the outcome. So in an abundance of caution, his perspective, and I think as an attorney who represents many, many towns in Connecticut, his first initial gut reaction is always going to be, how do I protect my towns the best? How do I make sure that they are insulated from any appearance of impropriety? And so his perspective, which I totally respect, was, hey, let's just have him recused, the vote doesn't change, and move forward, because that removes any appearance of impropriety, and no one can take issue with that. And it insulates the town. And if I was sitting in Jeff's shoes as an attorney representing towns in Connecticut, that would certainly be one of my initial responses as well. When I spoke to Jeff, I called Jeff, he told me that, and I said, Jeff, totally understand. Let's think about it from a different perspective. Let's reframe the discussion and let's reframe this. And I gave him some things to think about. I gave him my perspective. We talked for a long time. And Jeff came away with a different perspective after chatting with me. So I wouldn't say his perspective was changed. I just think that Jeff's initial reaction was to insulate the town from any issues going forward. And so when I spoke to him, he got the opportunity to have a more robust discussion. And after discussing with me my perspective and looking at the code itself, and I said, Jeff, give me the other side. Tell me the other side. Argue for the other way. Argue why this isn't a conflict. And he said, oh, that's easy, because of these reasons. And I said, Jeff, would you be willing to write and issue an opinion on that? He said, if Michael authorizes me to do that, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what you have here.
Okay.
So I think the opinion that matters is the opinion that Jeff D'Onofrio is putting on this piece of paper. So to characterize it as, I changed his opinion because I'm so incredibly persuasive, is not at all the case. It's just an opportunity that I had with Jeff to have a full discussion. We went through the code together, and I said, Jeff, are you able to put this on a piece of paper and issue an opinion that says what I read? And he said, absolutely, that's no problem.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's excellent. So thank you for clarifying that. And
Sure.
I'm glad that you were able to have that conversation. But I think it is very important that the public also hear that there was an initial reaction from our town attorney and then a more detailed response that he put in writing. So I think it's important.
Why is that important?
And just as I spoke on, if, based on that initial opinion, it becomes ridiculous when the opinion actually makes no sense, because, you know, when we start talking about my wife having a library card and I can't be involved in library decisions, that doesn't make any sense, because everybody has a library card or could have a library card. So I think, I think the initial outcome really, when you actually think about the implications about what he said initially, after he reconsidered it, this opinion now makes much more sense than I think his quick one to start with. And, that needed further research, discussion, and to make sure that what he actually said really made sense, and now it does.
Right. So to phrase
But it was a good, but the question was a very valid question to
in a way that
ask.
is not in legalese, I think that, and just to be clear, I was not the resident who came forward and spoke with Mr. Frieda about this, but I think that a volunteer firefighter voting on the purchase and financing of a fire ladder truck that is ultimately going to a a volunteer firehouse would be something that most people would say, hey, well, maybe there is something of not just a bias, but an actual conflict of interest in which there is not a financial gain. There are lots of different types of conflicts of interest. The particular one that you focused on had a financial component to it. But I guess the real question is, how can Mr. Cohen be both an unbiased town leader and a subordinate to a town department head? That is the real source of the conflict of interest. So it is not whether you have a library card, it is that you are a subordinate to a town department head, and that town department head will then have a component to the overall budget. You can't just talk about just the fire department budget, you have to consider the budget in its totality. So my second question for you, Mr. Cohen, is you talked about these two scenarios, the vote on the fire truck and consideration or discussions about the budget. Are you in any way constrained based upon your role as a volunteer firefighter in any other way? Whether it be votes on the CBA for the fire department or any other departmental decision-making as far as allocations for the fire department, did Mr. D'Onofrio in any way address whether you should be constrained in any other way?
Yes, he did. He said that in the case where we as a Board of Selectmen would be revising an appropriation request from the fire department, which is which is why I read it's the major budget. So if we were to look at the appropriation request from the fire department, and we were going to either revise that up or down regardless, that in that discrete case, I should recuse myself, given my association with the fire department. So that's what he said. So he said, if you are looking at the appropriation request in a budget cycle, and you are specifically looking at the fire request that the chief makes for what he needs for the fire department, that in that instance, I should recuse myself from that discussion.
So you can vote on purchasing a $2 million ladder truck, but you can't have discussions about moving the fire department budget up or down.
Correct, because the ladder truck was not an appropriation.
I'm sorry?
I authorized Michael to enter into a lease and purchase agreement.
Right.
It was not an appropriation. This is the discussion we had on December 4th. We had a very full discussion about this. I do not want to rehash this.
No,
I think
I'm not trying to rehash at all.
I think it'd be
I'm
a
simply
waste of
trying to
time and
understand
energy.
whether there's any other circumstances.
Nancy, I just want to say this to you.
Yes.
The implication of what you're saying, just so folks in town understand this, is you want me to resign from the fire department.
I absolutely do not want that.
Let me finish here, Nancy.
Yes.
The implication of what you're saying is you would like me to resign in order to keep my position on the Board of Selectmen.
I did not say that.
That's what you're implying.
I know what I'm implying.
And I'm
You are
pretty sure,
inferring, I am not implying.
I'm pretty
There's a
sure that the
difference.
people of this town know exactly what I ran on, which is the fact that I love the fire department, I'm a member of it, and I plan to continue being a member. And I plan to also sit on this board while being a member, because it is not a conflict to do both at the same time.
Okay.
People can wear multiple hats
I have
and be
no problem with
unbiased and objective.
If you were a teacher, you could not be involved in negotiations on the teachers' collective bargaining agreement, correct?
Michael, do you want to?
If you were an employee of this town,
Look,
you would not.
I'm not gonna put this man under interrogation here,
I'm
okay?
simply asking
No.
whether the town attorney
we've-
specified,
we-
excuse me, please
we
keep
have-
order
we have-
in the room.
People here
Mr.
think you're out of
Frida,
order.
you are the meeting moderator.
So-
There are people in the audience
Yeah.
who are out of order.
As the meeting moderator, we're gonna conclude this discussion. We have talked about this on and off for 2 months since the last meeting. We have Glenn Rybacki, the bond counsel attorney, who weighed in on this. Jeff D'Onofrio has weighed in on it. David did the research. We did the research. We had David talk to Jeff. We didn't disguise the fact that this was not an issue. We're satisfied with the outcome. We support him, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move forward.
I am not in any way saying that I don't support Dave. I didn't say that I don't support him as a firefighter. I'm simply asking if the town attorney has specified whether you have any limitations on the Board of Selectmen.
I just went through that, and Nancy, I am up here, I am your representative, just like I am everybody else's in this room and everybody else who's watching. We have spent a lot of time on this issue, both last month and this month. It is now time to move forward with our agenda, as Michael just said. So I think that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
We're through with the discussion, we're all satisfied, and we'll wait for public comment if anyone else would like to comment on this, okay?
And if you could make that public for the comments from the town attorney, I'd love to be able to read that.
Is that okay?
It's up to
It's all
Mr.
public
Freeman.
record. Yeah.
Sure.
I have a copy right here,
Yeah,
you want it?
Go ahead, Nancy, there's a copy over there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Beth.
You're
And
welcome.
that is not gonna be up for debate with the attorney. I'm telling you right now, that's not gonna be up for debate.
I'm not asking for
Okay, so you have the copy of it, he explained it, no more debate on this subject. All right, next.
David, thanks for your discussion.
Yeah, of course.
which I think
Thank you
was-
for allowing me the time.
Okay. Item number 6, who would like to read that?
Put my glasses on first.
Yeah, Bill, please.
Item number 6 is to consider and act upon a resolution to schedule and advertise for a public hearing for possible action on the Town of North Haven, Connecticut Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device, the abbreviation of which is ATESD, Municipal Plan, prepared pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 14-307E, to be held at the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen on Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. Resolved that a public hearing for possible action on the Town of North Haven, Connecticut Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device, ATESD, Municipal Plan, prepared pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 14-307E, shall be scheduled for and advertised to be held at the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen on Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. Please note that a copy of the ATESD plan will be posted with the notice of public hearings in the town clerk's office and on the town website on the Board of Selectmen's page at https://www.northaven.ct.gov government/public meeting/Board of Selectmen /2026.phpp. So I'll make that resolution.
All right, is there a motion to accept? Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussions? Hearing none, we're going to call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much. All right, item number 8, resignations and appointments. David, would you like to start this?
Sure. Appointment of Rosalind Gambardella, 1014 Hartford Turnpike to the Cemetery Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll second,
Is there a second?
Rosalind's
Motion
appointment.
and a second. Roz, thank you very much for serving, and we'll call for that vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bill?
I'm pleased to make a motion for the appointment of Nancy Barrett, 1 Crestview Drive, to the open space, I'm sorry about that, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendations of the Board of Finance for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
All right. We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Nancy, thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next.
Reappointment of Sandra Stetson, 542 Middletown Avenue, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Conservation Commission for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
I'll second Sandra's reappointment.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Sandra, thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next.
I'll motion for the reappointment of Mary Lou Stamp, 134 Middletown Avenue, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mary Lou, thank you for your willingness to serve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next.
Make a motion for the reappointment of Brian Cummings, 107 Clintonville Road, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
I'll second Brian's reappointment.
Brian, thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll motion for the reappointment of Mark Cofrancesco, 6 Frost Drive, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Land Trust for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Mark, thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Reappointment of Cheryl Ann, I'm so sorry if I get this wrong, Junovich? Junowick, so sorry, Cheryl Ann. 101 Knollwood Road to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Inland Wetlands Commission for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
I'll second Cheryl Ann's reappointment.
All right, Cheryl, thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then I'll also do a motion for the reappointment of Stephen J. Fitzgerald, 34 River Road, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the First Selectmen for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Stephen, thank you very much for your continued service. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, property tax refund, David?
Sure. We do these en masse?
Yes.
All at once? Okay. Property tax refunds. I'll read them. I'll read through these.
No,
Ace-
you don't need to.
You don't need to read through
Just-
these?
You can just make a motion to accept them in their entirety.
Oh, that's great.
Thank
I
you.
would like to make a motion to accept all of these property refunds, property tax refunds in their entirety.
Is there a second?
I will second these property tax refunds, all of which are relatively small and what we're used to seeing.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just as an interesting note on property tax refunds, I mean, this has been an item on occasion where I've had a friend or somebody that I know in business who's an acquaintance where I have recused myself from voting, because even though the amount is small, because of my relationship. So this is a good area where, you know, you might have somebody that could be a family member, friend, or acquaintance that you feel, you know, you should not vote on that person's property tax refund.
That's a great point.
Yeah, very good, Bill. Thank you.
Including one time when I had one myself.
Oh, I would authorize that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, because I sold the car got junked,
Ah.
unfortunately, so.
Thank you. So we're at item number 10. The next regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Selectmen is Thursday, February 5th, here in the library. And hopefully soon we'll be back to Town Hall in the next couple of months. But all those in favor for this, I'm making a motion. We don't really need the motion, so we'll move on to the next item, public comment. Yes, Mary White.
Mary White, Summer Lane. Happy New Year, everybody. Just two things tonight. So the first one is, both are public interest. So the first one, I want to thank Valerie for returning my phone call. Last month, people might remember one of the topics I discussed was about the passing of the House Bill 8002, and it's over 100 pages, it's very involved, and so I had suggested to have the town attorney come and speak to us about the House Bill 8002. So I called and made that inquiry, and Valerie was kind enough to call me back. And the town attorney, Jennifer Coppola, she is attending informational sessions on this. She has more sessions to attend, but that after she's finished attending sessions on this, she will be coming to the Board of Selectmen and she will be speaking with us. So thank you very much for that.
That's great.
Okay, my next topic, so there was an extraordinary announcement on Monday, And after I heard that announcement, I went to the hhs.gov website where I saw a fact sheet, and it says CDC childhood immunization recommendations. So what you're going to hear me say now is from going there. So it said, after scientific review of underlying science comparing U.S. child adolescent immunization schedule with peer-developed nations, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Acting Director Jim O'Neill has updated the U.S. childhood immunization schedule and did so on Monday, January 5th. The CDC will continue to recommend that all children are immunized against 10 diseases for which there is international consensus, as well as varicella, which is chickenpox. The updated CDC childhood immunization schedule, HHS Secretary Kennedy said it has 3 categories of vaccines. The first category is the core schedule that is based on the European Community requirements, based on peer-developed nations, and based on science. The second category is people with vulnerabilities and high risk. That schedule has not changed. The third category he described as shared decision-making between doctor and patient. So any vaccine on the old schedule, you can continue to get if you want to. It is your choice. The insurance will cover, and there needs to be informed consent between the doctor and the patient. It also talked about strengthening of the vaccine research through HHS commitment to double-blind, placebo-controlled randomized trials, as well as more observational studies to evaluate long-term effects of individual vaccines, and the vaccine schedule. So here are the diseases of the CDC childhood immunization recommendation schedule. Excuse me if I mispronounce some of these things. Diphtheria, tetanus, acellular pertussis, whooping cough, Haemophilus, influenza type B or Hib, pneumococcal conjugate, 6 is polio, 7 measles, 8 is mumps, 9 is rubella, 10 is human papillomavirus, HPV, 1 dose for that, and then varicella, chickenpox. So I would suggest everybody does their own research. We have some medical experts are recommending no more combined disease vaccines. They recommend 1 disease, 1 vaccine, space them out, have your appointments months apart. So one fact that I found interesting is that the blood-brain barrier is not fully developed at birth. Babies' blood-brain barriers are said to leak. Some medical experts suggest not to begin vaccinations until after the age of 2. Some medical experts recommend not giving Tylenol to babies and young children after vaccination. Some medical experts recommend pregnant women to not take Tylenol. Let's see, there is a study that I researched, and it was published on August 14, 2025, in BMC Environmental Health. Researchers at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai have found that prenatal exposure to acetaminophen may increase the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in children. You can read about that study yourself. So highlights, quote, 46 studies incorporating data from more than 100 participants across multiple countries. Results showed a link, prenatal acetaminophen, exposure and increased risks of autism and ADHD, and quote, that was from a doctor named Dr. Didier Prada, MD, PhD, Assistant Professor of Population Health Science and Policy and Environmental Medicine and Climate Science at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Quote, given the widespread use of this medication, even a small increase in risk could have major public health implications. The paper also explores, quote, biological mechanisms that could explain the association between acetaminophen use and these disorders. Acetaminophen is known to cross the placenta barrier and may trigger oxidative stress, disrupt hormones, and cause epigenetic changes that interfere with fetal brain development, end quote. Pregnant women should consult with their doctors about taking Tylenol. Safer alternatives should be sought. Updated guidelines are needed. And to conclude, I found this article, www.sciencedaily.com. The title of the article is A Safe Painkiller? New research raises concerns about Tylenol's safety in pregnancy, dated August 21, 2025, and source the Mount Sinai Hospital, Mount Sinai School of Medicine. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Sue Benvenuti, Bassett Road, only because it was brought up about whether Dave should have a say or at all with this fire department, anything. When you're doing the budget and there's a discussion, first of all, you said it's not gonna happen this year anyhow because you're passing it through anyhow to the appropriate, whatever. You guys are not having the discussion about wiping out stuff. But your knowledge or your input should be able to be heard, just like a public comment should be able to be heard, but you're on the board. And it's not like you're influencing them, it's called giving information that you have basically inside information on. All right, I just don't think that you have to be, and you, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think you have to be recused from discussion. Maybe from that vote, that's fine. You know, in the vote about adding money in or taking money out. I just, because I'm sitting back here saying, okay, then none of your kids can go to North Haven schools. None of your kids can use this. None of you, you know what? Let's get real, okay? The reason he was elected was because we wanted somebody who cared about the town. So let's not tie his hands so that the town doesn't get all their benefits. Okay, I just, it really bothers me quite a bit to see the undercutting going on. And I think that you really check with the lawyer again to find out if you can actually be in the discussion, you know, and maybe not have that vote recused from the vote, just like Mr. Piper over here was in the discuss, you know, your Board of Selectmen thing where you had all the tax refund things going down, but he had to recuse just for the one when it was Piper getting something back a couple months ago. You know, those type of things. I don't see a real estate agent recusing on, gee, all this property stuff that happened in North Haven. You know, I'm just saying it's just not right to cut his legs off. Let the man do his job.
Jerry Feinberg.
Jerry Feinberg, 34 Brockett Farm Road. Good evening, all. So first, brief comment about the whatever was done to the menorah. It's troubling in today's environment. Maybe it's not surprising. What's most important is what Mike said. It's going to be rebuilt, and that's a message both to people who would take this kind of action, and more importantly to the community at large, that we welcome people of the Jewish faith and essentially every faith. And so just want to thank the board for doing what they did, and also the police department for acting on it, acting on this quickly. with respect to the conflict of interest discussion. So it's someone who's an attorney and has had an opportunity to practice administrative law in the past. I mean, these kinds of questions are not unusual, but I think the best thing that I heard today was the common sense approach that I believe her name is Susan made. You know, one of the things that we need in a town, especially a town that has a town meeting form of government, is to have people with knowledge and ability and skills to participate in our public boards and commissions, and especially this board. A restrictive reading of the conflict of interest provision in the ethics code, which I did look at years ago, would have a chilling effect on our getting the best and brightest people in this town involved in town government. And I agree with what the previous speaker said. I don't think that David should be restricted from participating in budgetary discussions having to do with the Board of Finance, notwithstanding the town attorney's opinion, and perhaps there could be further discussion about it, and here's why. You know, an almost $2 million ladder truck, that's not going to benefit David, it's not going to benefit me, it's going to benefit the town as a whole. The same thing with the fire department budget. Now, whether it's, I don't remember if there's a specific allocation for the volunteer fire company that David belongs to, but the thing we have to focus on is what's the purpose of that? Is it to provide him with an opportunity to have a place to hang out? Or is it to benefit the town as a whole, whether it's whatever services that fire company provides? And for that reason, me personally, I don't see a reason why David shouldn't be able to engage in that sort of a discussion. Think of all the organizations and associations in town that people who are on boards and commissions participate in. As Bill indicated, when a light goes off in someone's mind's eye, that there's the possibility of the appearance of a conflict, the wise thing to do is to recuse oneself, whether you're a member of this board or the Board of Education or any other board. But if it's something if what's being discussed is, let's say, an appropriation that's going to benefit the town as a whole and not one discrete area of the town, I personally don't see a reason why a member of this board or any other board ought to be constrained. And we want to encourage people to be able to participate, and I think for that reason the written opinion, maybe not the initial advice that was given, but the written opinion speaks for itself. I'll also say this. David's a member of a volunteer fire company. I was a member of a volunteer fire company in Hamden years ago. We've had volunteer fire companies in North Haven for probably over 100 years. And I'd hardly believe that no one who has been a member of a volunteer fire company has never served as a member of the Board of Selectmen. Steve Fontana, at one time, was a member of what was the Mount Louise Volunteer Fire Company, and he was also on this Board of Selectmen. I don't know whether he was a member of that volunteer fire company at the time he was a member of the Selectmen. So I'm just going to leave it at I don't see a problem, and I think this is handled appropriately. Comment about the ATESD plan that's coming up for a hearing in February. So my recollection, because I attended a meeting on that, is that there was the contractual basis that we have with the company that's going to be providing the service was based on a request for proposal that was provided to, might be the Hartford Council of Governments, and
South Central Council.
South Central,
yeah.
okay.
South Central.
Okay. Went to the website, not easy to find. I would just ask that, as long as this plan is going to be put onto the town's website, if this RFP is not part of it, that RFP also be posted to save people who might be interested in what's actually in that RFP from having to contact that Council of Government in order to be able to get a copy of it. Now, lastly, and the reason I'm here tonight is to talk about the Board of Education elementary school replacement proposal that was part of their meeting in December. So I got some questions and comments because this is a proposal to build 4 new elementary schools at the existing locations of the existing schools. Now, this was described in a PowerPoint presentation, which is available on the board's website, that I've had a chance to take a look at. Now, I was a member of the Board of Ed the last time we renovated these schools, about 25 years ago. And from what I've seen using the Google machine, the 4 elementary schools were constructed ranging from the late 50s to the late 60s. And when we worked on them 25 years ago, we basically did code compliance. We spent about $20 million at that time, which if you use a Google calculator is equivalent to about 35 million in today's dollars. Now, as I said it at the Board of Education meeting, the proposal that they've made, I think, is part of their job, which is to inform this community what they believe to be in the best interest of our kids, especially with respect to those buildings. From what I've seen looking at the data or the information that's on their website, it looks like the net cost to the town for building 4 schools is going to range from, and I say net cost, that's after state reimbursement based on what's on those slides, about $150 to $200 million. For construction, it's going to start in 28 and end around 2023. And that the board is going to begin incurring costs to develop what are called ed specs probably this month. So I got 3 questions for this board. I can ask them all at one time, or I can ask them one at a time.
One at a time, Chair, go ahead.
Okay, all right, so the first one. So this proposal includes a timeline for 2026, that's this year, that's going to culminate in a referendum in November. Now, considering the significant cost, I think it's important for this community to know where this board, the Board of Selectmen, stands on the project before the Board of Ed expends a lot of money. So my question is, are each of you on board conceptually, just conceptually, with the proposal to construct 4 new schools?
Well, I'll start that, Jerry. From a conceptual standpoint, I was the one that gave the Board of Ed the okay to do the public meetings now once a month. So from a conceptual standpoint, yes. Now, from a financial standpoint, we have to wait to see what the state reimbursement's going to be. I'm already running the numbers in terms of what the debt service would be, the incremental debt service, and equating that to what a possible tax increase could be. Conceptually, yes. I can't speak for Bill or David, but I can turn it over.
And I think, we've seen the decline in the school-age population over the last couple decades. But the good news is that, because North Haven is a good place to live, our school-age population, I believe from what I've seen in terms of number of students, is stabilized. So, can we get by with less than 4 schools? Because they were built for a larger population, but we definitely, I think, because we are an attractive place for people to live, definitely need new schools. I just don't know whether we need 4.
David?
Sure, conceptual.
Until I hear
Yeah,
more.
please.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, are you all set?
Yeah, so.
Jerry, thanks for the question. Conceptually, yes, I am on board. I think it's very important that we continue to have neighborhood schools here in town. I think folks love that. They love being able to walk their kids to the neighborhood elementary school. So that would mean a 4-school concept moving forward. I think Michael's absolutely right. Financially, we have a lot of work to do. The Board of Ed has a lot of work to do. The town has a lot of understanding to see what the numbers shake out. But conceptually, I think the plan that was put forward to redo all 4 schools was a good outcome.
So if I understand, you are taking a look at the numbers. And I don't know if we've had any conversation with bond counsel, perhaps you have, as to whether we have the ability to borrow $150 to $200 million. And also, if the construction's going to start in 2028, when would we actually have to go into the market? Does anybody have a crystal ball to suggest what those interest rates might be? And also, what fiscal year would we have to begin paying off the bonding? And I don't have the table in front of me. I don't know what our bonded indebtedness would be. And here's what I'm driving at. These are telephone numbers, and they might be a little bit scary. But if it turns out, first of all, that we're not actually going to have to start expending funds on this for 3-4 years, and then it's going to be incremental, I think that would be important for people to gain an understanding of as we go through this process. And lastly, so the timeline that's being put out by the Board of Education calls for, well, we were told it was a November referendum, but actually if you look at the document, it shows a referendum on November 9th, 2026. Now, I'm a former registrar, and on an as-needed basis, I still work as an election moderator, both on election day and during early voting. And we got a general election coming up on November 3rd. I would hope that the registrars of voters have been consulted about the feasibility of conducting a referendum on November 9th, or if not, that because I've got limited knowledge now because it's been more than 25 years since I was a registrar, but there's always the possibility of a recount, state audit, and we have these newfangled tabulators. There may be some restrictions on the use of those tabulators within a certain time frame, so I hope that can be worked out as well.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that date's going to have to change based on some of the things you said, Jerry. I've already talked to a couple of registrars, and
Right.
and it's not going to work because that date's going to have to be adjusted sometime at a later date in November. So you're right about this.
Okay, because I know that in the timeline that's been provided by the consultants, there's a date in December by which information has to be provided, possibly to the governor for some sort of a list that needs to be prepared. So,
Now, I should share with you, Jerry, too, because I know you were on the Board of Ed, and you and I first started on the Board of Finance together years
Yep.
ago, right? So you've been on both sides of this. And I have a meeting coming up with the school system, the superintendent, the business manager, to review this among other things. So you're absolutely right. That date is probably going to have to be adjusted, yes.
okay, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. Okay.
The only thing, Jerry, before you leave?
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
Sure.
No, you don't have to go back. You had asked about some of the bonding questions. I'm
Yeah.
not sure we have answers for that yet, right?
I can give you an overview on this. We don't have all the answers yet, but the plan would be, in concept, to bond over 17 years. And in the first couple of years, there'd be bands versus notes, which
Okay.
would mitigate the front cost, but then it would accelerate, potentially in year 4, 5, all the way through 17.
Okay,
So for me, in doing the analysis, I have to calculate, which I'm already calculating, what the bond drop, what the debt reduction is going to be over the next 10, 12, 15 years,
Yep.
and how the incremental debt would play into what the net incremental debt would be. Because we have planned for the future to drop our annual debt in the next few years, actually. So when our goal is to reduce debt, and then in this case, if we have to bond, you replace the debt with infrastructure improvements that are very important, and we know the schools are. The other thing that has to come into play, Jerry, and you were on the Board of Ed, and you just mentioned 25 years ago, that we also have to calculate in and bake in what the projected deferred maintenance is going to be every year. That has to come into play in terms of what the net incremental amount of debt will be. Because over the next 10 years, there's going to be probably more and more deferred maintenance that's going to be kicking in that we're going to have to spend money on.
Until the new schools
Until
are
the new
built.
school- Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
that comes into the equation too.
yeah, when we renovated the schools 25 years ago, there were corners that were cut. Just as a quick for instance, the first school that was renovated was Monteluise. Now, that school was built sometime in the late 50s, and instead of replacing the windows, the actual windows that were there from the late 50s, we replaced the glass, and the reason was, at that time, it was uncertain if there would be enough money to do the entire project for the remaining 4 schools. And there were other corners like that that were cut, so there's no question that there's a lot of work that would need to be done on these schools if they were in some fashion renovated.
Yes.
And it's way beyond my expertise. I don't know what the current facility requirements are. But with respect to the financing, to the extent that we can smooth out the impact, as you described,
Yes.
by issuing bans, and if you could describe for people what a ban is, having been a member of the Board of Finance, I have a vague recollection of that is, but to the extent that we can smooth this out, it might be more sellable, I guess
Right.
to be blunt.
And these are the things that we're looking at, Jerry, so you're absolutely right. So you made a comeback from your 25 years ago. You came with good recall here, so thank you very much. Thank you.
It's not me, it's a Google machine.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Oh, Jim, is that you? How are you?
Good evening, Mike.
Hey.
Jim Buck, Ansonia Drive, and good evening to the board. So I really wanted to discuss a few things, but obviously the news regarding the defacement of a religious symbol, I think we really want to focus on the fact that hate and intolerance have no place in North Haven. I think our police department has done a good job. Hopefully this is just a misguided youth that will learn from this, and maybe there are others that can learn from it as well. Last time I approached the board, we talked a bit about respect and intolerance that day. That was sometime last year, and things can become very personal. We don't all have to like each other. You guys have a job to do. And I'm really concerned that we are going to start or continue this cycle of attacking or trying to, impeach elected officials because you don't like them, and because there's something about their policies that you don't agree with. That's a really bad place to be. I felt we got there last year, and I'm worried we're getting there again. And some of this is personal squabbles, and some of it's bigger than that. But the issue before us here, as we talk about it, I was listening to some of the comments. I heard a couple key things: in appearance of impropriety, perception of impropriety. These are all important things, and I think we all have maybe a differing compass on where that stands. But you know where it doesn't exist? In that code of ethics. Those terms do not exist in the code of ethics. There is talk about proper behavior and proper conduct. I don't think we've seen improper conduct, and I think we need to get away from intolerance and trying to ruin the reputation of elected officials. So a vote on a needed town asset. It benefits the entire community. That's certainly what I voted for people on the Board of Selectmen to do. We have a lot of important town business, and I want to make sure that you're not prevented or in any way, be withdrawing from that. That's very different than, and it's a term I'm familiar with, pecuniary personal gain, and that is very specific. That's a very specific term that absolutely lines someone's pockets. So, for instance, if the Cohen Apparatus Manufacturing Company got the next contract, well, congratulations, then that would be very much pecuniary personal gain. And I think we would all in town have an issue with that. That's not what's going on here. It would kind of be equally foolish of me to say that a member of the Board of Finance who, maybe suggested that we propose millions of dollars of declinations at budget time, we're doing so to lower the proposed budget in a personal benefit to lower taxes, rather than their fiduciary responsibility, right? So, look, I think we can all differ on these things. A watchdog role is an important role. I think it's important that people keep a close eye on things and ask the questions. Nobody's being, you have a very open forum here. Nobody's being forbidden from asking questions. I think the questions can be prudent. Let's keep them on track. We've got development going on in town. Budget workshops are coming up. The elementary school project, Attorney Feinberg, that was fantastic commentary, because I think there's a lot of nuance in that project that is going to be important for the town, especially the inclusion of all of the different options rather than just sort of, heading in one direction. I'm in favor of that discussion. And, as it relates to planning and zoning decisions that have been taken out of the town's hands, things at the state level, we want our state legislators working on that. I have a very serious issue with the single point of egress legislation that was recently passed. So these are all the important matters I think our town leaders should be focused on. So that's why I came up tonight to speak on that. And I want to be consistent. I'm not looking at attacks on any of our officials. We're going to have nobody left to run for these positions.
That's very well said, Jim. I really appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? Ziv?
Sid Quinzel, 65 Potter Road. I would just like to apologize for speaking out of turn earlier.
All right. Mary White?
Mary White, Still Summer Lane. I just wanted to ask a question relative to, Mike, you mentioned that you're going to be having a meeting with, I think you said the superintendent of schools and somebody else?
Yeah, business manager, yes.
Business manager, thank you,
Right.
yes. I was wondering if, during that meeting, if you could ask about the third option that was not given during the presentation in December. So the first option was status quo for 10 years, fixing things mechanical, wiring, whatever, roofs, HVAC, furnaces, whatever. And that number was 137 million for 10 years. And then, of course, the second option is the building of the 4 new schools, and our town share is going to be about 200 million. However, that share does not include any of the expenses that might come up while construction is going on, if something goes wrong with the schools. So that share could actually be higher. So I went to a Board of Finance meeting, and I was curious about this $14 million bond payment, annual payment. I was wondering what that translated as far as like a mill rate increase. And I was given the number about 3.5 mills, and that does not include anything else with the budget. That's just for that.
That's right.
So that's a lot. So, I question the affordability of this. But anyway, getting back to my question. So when I did speak during public comment, and like I said, I did get yelled at, but I was able, during the Board of Education meeting, I was able to ask about this third option renovation that was not given. Okay, and the man from the company said that, no, we did not do a renovation plan. However, after approval at a November 2026 referendum, when they apply for the grant application, the state requires that they submit a renovation plan along with their 4 new elementary school plan. So they have to do it according to what the man said. So I'm asking you if we could have the company just do it earlier so that we could have a look at that and see what does that look like.
You're talking about this other option, the renovation option, Mary? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
renovation option that I asked about, and it was not given.
All right,
And
okay.
so that's when the man answered the question, and he said, no, we didn't give it. This is the route that, we feel that the town should go. And so they presented information on that route, which is the 4 new schools. But it was very interesting to me and to others that he said when they apply after the referendum, assuming it's a positive, it's a vote yes, when they apply for the grant application, the state has requirements. And one of those requirements is that they submit this renovation plan, analysis, whatever you want to call it, along with their 4 new elementary schools plan. So he's going to do it. They're going to do it. So I'm simply saying, some of us want to see what does that look like.
All right, that's a fair point. Val, make a note of this, and we'll talk to them next week, okay?
Okay,
It's a
th-
fair-
thank-
it's a fair
thank you
point.
very much.
Okay, you're welcome. So, Susan?
So Benvenuti, Bassett Road, I was at that Board of Education meeting also. And what really irked me was, I don't know, I guess those were, I'm not, who were they, architects, planners, whoever those two men were. They dismissed renovation because it's easier to get people to bid on new renovation. Well, you know what? You're right. Would I rather have 50 million in my pocket or 150 million in my pocket? I'm sorry. I've made renovations on my house. When it wasn't fit here or had to be fixed here, I renovated it. I didn't sell it, go buy something new, go build up something new. You know, and they're downsizing the schools. They're making them more flowable. People listen. It's not the flow, it's the education. It's not that there's 78% more building in Clintonville than needs to be, and now we're gonna bring it down. That's not what downsizing is supposed to be. You know, I mean, I spoke regarding the high school, when they were making the things about the high school, and it was, well, teacher's here half a day, and then she teaches science, and then somebody else comes in the afternoon and she teaches math. So I said, well, what are they doing the other half of the day? Are they gonna get more teachers? No, the curriculum's not changing, the building's changing. I'm sorry, who are we building it for? We don't have land to be building houses, we're gonna be building apartments, and we're not taxing these people. Come on, I mean, how much more can we be pulling from the old people that are in this town? Okay, I'm sorry, I just think that somebody has to look at this, and you have a architect, I don't know who, what were they, I don't know what you call those people.
Other consultants, right?
Consultants.
Yeah, right.
And they poo-pooed renovation. Okay,
Well, that
so
ties into.
are they gonna pay my taxes?
Okay. Well, that ties into Mary's question, so.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is,
Right.
but there was more to that just than, that they didn't just show it. They dismissed it,
Okay,
and we didn't say anything about it.
okay,
Thank you
Very
for
good.
bringing that up.
all right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Barrett. Yeah.
Nancy Barrett, 1 Crestview Drive. So I was unaware of the destruction of the menorah, so I'm equally very upset to hear about that. And again, I'm also hoping that this was just an individual who was obviously a youth. And I'm, like Mr. Cohen, I'm also hoping that this is an opportunity for education, not just of this individual, but I'm also hoping that this is an opportunity to actually address children in all 4 elementary schools and the middle school and the high school, and really be able to talk about tolerance of not just different religious backgrounds, but different ethnic backgrounds, different belief sets in general. And I think that it hasn't been lost on me that there was just a proclamation of by Mr. Frida for the Muslims in our town, and that we really need to be putting into practice, not just as adults, but also in talking to our young people about tolerance in our town. But also we need to be exemplifying that in the way that we interact with one another. I was very saddened to hear that Mary White was reprimanded at a Board of Education meeting, and I just think there's no place for that. And I think the points that were made earlier, that comments should be welcome, questions should be welcomed, and I think that there's opportunities for doing that, not just here at the Board of Selectmen meeting, but I think throughout the town. I think that Chief Buck, once again, the gentleman that he is, actually made some fantastic points this evening, and I think that we really need to be focused on being respectful and paying attention to decorum in meetings as well. And just one last point regarding the 4 schools. I think we're still pretty far from having any tangible decision-making. We're not quite there yet, but I just want to point out that the ultimate plan that we went with for the middle school, which was a hybrid form in which we tore down a portion of the middle school and built that new and then renovated the rest of it, that was not one of the initial proposals. That came as a result of repeated discussions and people trying to think way outside the box. So I think that to the points that have been made, not only about financial decision-making, but also in looking at the number of students in our town and what are different ways that we can organize perhaps in fewer numbers of schools, but perhaps larger schools. I think that we really need to be very creative, but also collaborative in thinking about all of the different options. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? All right, seeing none, we'll call for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second.
Second.
Motion, second. Any other discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So,
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.